My very first The Last of Us episode review video. Before I get into that, though, pretty important, I am very new to this show. I never played the video game and know little to nothing about it. So if you aren't caught up to the point where I am and rewatching or watching The Last of Us, or you're just not entirely sure, then you definitely need to take the initiative and pay attention to the episode's title, which of course I'll mention, as well as put in the description for you. If that happens to be the case, you're not caught up, it would be my recommendation that you don't watch this video any further to avoid any potential spoilers. And if you're new to the show or the series, join me on this journey. This will be The Last of Us Season 1, Episode 1. I'm assuming they'll have another season. The title of this episode is called When You're Lost in the Darkness. And this will be my review, reaction, recap after just finishing watching the episode. We start off in 1968, a talk show with a live audience where three individuals are talking about viruses and how viruses spread and everything virus related, which was kind of boring. It kind of lost me during that scene, I'm going to be honest. I don't know about you, but I'm really sick and tired of hearing about viruses with COVID and all. And then we have the Last of Us intro. It's not as good as Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, which is the same theme, or even Westworld, but it could be a theme that grows on me. And then we go to 2003. We're introduced to Joel, played by Pedro Pascal from Game of Thrones and The Mandalorian. He's having breakfast with his daughter Sarah, and they also have his brother there, Tommy. Now, I don't know if that's Joel's house or that's Tommy's house. Somebody leave me something in the comments section letting me know, because obviously, like I mentioned earlier in this video, I know nothing about this show. I'm learning as I go with this. We meet their elderly neighbors who want to give them biscuits. Apparently Joel really likes biscuits, and he says that Sarah will be over later for those. Sarah is taken to school and she seems rather bored. Well, school is boring, so doesn't surprise me. And then Sarah goes to talk to Mrs. Adler after school about police on the news, like something's up with the police. And then we see, I don't know who this character is. It might be Mrs. Adler's mom, but she's like having a seizure in the background, or something's going on with her in the background where she's like twitching and all that. And we find out later what happens to the elderly lady that was in a chair. But Sarah gives Joel a nice watch, and then Joel, after Sarah kind of passes out, he gets a call from Tommy that Tommy is in jail. So Joel puts Sarah to bed because she fell asleep. And then Sarah wakes up after 2 a.m. in the morning. She's hearing a lot of helicopters flying around. The neighbor's dog startles her, gives everybody a jump scare, and the dog isn't completely right. Sarah goes to check on Mrs. Adler, because that's the owner of the dog, and she sees Mrs. Adler getting eaten, like her hair's being eaten by the elderly lady that was with Mrs. Adler, her mom possibly. She's obviously like something different. She's infected with something. Definitely not the old lady that was in the chair. And Joel and Tommy show up, and Joel ends up killing the old lady as she turned into something much different than an elderly woman. And then we have Joel, Tommy, and Sarah. They head the direction towards the hospital. They had to drive through the field as everyone had the same idea. Like there was a traffic stop and a lot of cars in the way. And then we see a plane crash close to a crowd of people. Joel actually gets blocked off from Tommy at that point. During this, Sarah is injured, so Joel has to carry Sarah. And then one of the infected chases them, and they're running infected people. Not like The Walking Dead, where they're slow zombie/walkers. And then the infected person is shot by somebody in the military, army, navy, somebody, a soldier or something. And then the soldier, he keeps saying he's not infected. And the soldier is going to shoot Joel. But then Tommy shows up and kills this soldier. And unfortunately, Sarah was shot and dies as well. So, pretty sad way to start The Last of Us. And then we get 20 years later, they're in Boston. An semblance of law enforcement take in a hurt child. Turns out the child was infected and dies, and then the body was burned. Joel's one of the people that apparently burned bodies. That's his job in the world now. And some people are being hung due to not following the rules of the quarantine zone. There's an explosion, and some people in a building die. We are finally introduced to Ellie, formerly Lyanna Mormont of Game of Thrones. She's being held captive, and she's not supposed to be here, she says. Joel gives a guy a cigarette for information. He's trying to find Tommy, as he hasn't heard from him in 3 weeks, and this guy says that Tommy's in Wyoming. That was the last they heard of him, I believe. Joel has some stuff hidden under a floorboard. Joel takes some stuff he got and passes out. So something drug related, I'm thinking, or maybe it was pain relief. Nonetheless, that's what some drugs are. Tess is Joel's lady friend, and Tess says, let's get a battery and a truck and let's go find Tommy. Ellie is trying to break from her chains, and Marlene gives Ellie, I believe, her backpack. She pulls out a knife out of it, and then Marlene actually takes Ellie's chains off. I'm sure all this is in the video game. I've never played it. Joel and Tess break into a chain door. Joel and Tess do find a battery. I don't know if it worked or not because they go away from it. Marlene, Ellie, and some other person, her name may have been mentioned, but I just didn't catch it, meet up with Joel and Tess. Joel says Marlene turned his brother Tommy against him, so lots happened in 20 years apparently. Marlene knows what Joel and Tess are capable of, and Marlene is bleeding out, so she wants them to make a decision fast. She wants them to take Ellie on this mission. So Joel and Tess agree to take Ellie, and Marlene tells Joel not to fuck it up. Ellie figures out that they're talking in a code, like different years of music mean something to Joel and Tess, and Joel wants to kill some time at some point. He just wants to kill some time at some point and lay down for a rest, and he tells her she'll figure it out when she asks what she's going to do. And Joel asks Ellie, what's the deal with her? Are you some kind of bigwig's daughter? She says something like that. And then she finds out by fooling Joel that 80s music means trouble. Holy shit, Ellie is actually outside. They're out in a thunderstorm, and then they're detained by a soldier that Joel had run into earlier. And he means he's going to get them in trouble. And Ellie actually stabs the soldier, I believe. It was a little hard to see. And then Joel, thinking to him the last time he encountered a soldier where Sarah got shot and eventually died, Joel spears this soldier and beats the crap out of him to his death. So Joel kills this soldier, and it turns out Ellie is actually infected, but she says it's been 3 weeks old and she's fine, and she shows the mark on her arm to test. And then we hear some music, they're running through the storm, and that's how this pilot episode of The Last of Us ends. So, pretty interesting stuff. My opinion is probably deterred because I don't know a lot about it. I only know a very little amount about the show. I know there's different types of infected people. There's 4 stages, but in this show, apparently they're only going to use 3 from what I know, but I don't remember the names, so I'm learning as I go here. As far as the first episode of a TV show, I was kind of thinking of what I thought of other episodes of a TV show, which ones I liked better, which ones I didn't like as much as this, and I'm going to rate The Last of Us an 8.5 out of 10, with my standout character being Joel. He was obviously the focal point in this episode. I did like Ellie, I did like Tess, I did like Marlene. I know those characters thus far. Hopefully I know some more. We knew a little bit about Tommy, but then he kind of just disappeared. So those are my thoughts. You know, if you want to help me out with my knowledge, definitely drop that in the comments section. If you're a fan of The Last of Us and you want to help me out with the YouTube algorithm, make sure you smash that like button. Share this video with anybody that you know that likes The Last of Us. Put this video on any one of your social media platforms. Again, leave me plenty of comments. Let me know how I'm doing with The Last of Us. You can be honest. I know right now I'm probably not that good talking about this show because I really know nothing about it, but the show looks so great from the trailer that I think it's definitely going to be the next HBO hit. And then, of course, last but certainly not least, don't forget to hit that sub button. You're watching the video anyway. Subscribe to the channel, join the team, show your damn support, and be a part of something special. And JDev will return.